Howdy, this is your Houston chiropractor, Dr. Tristan Wendt, coming from Advanced Chiropractic Relief in Houston, Texas. And today I'm joined with
Dr. V. Hong from the Chiropractic Connection out in the Chicago area, specifically Melrose Park, Illinois, and Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois. Phone number 708-345-1299. You can also check out the website, chiropracticconnection.net.
So Dr. V is doing a 3-day seminar with Dr. Johnson, a hands-on clinical seminar learning how to provide the Johnson BioPhysics technique and the ring dinger adjustment for your patients in the Chicago area, correct?
Correct.
Yep. She got her first ring dinger yesterday with Dr. Johnson, as well as providing her first ring dinger to Dr. Johnson and myself. And so today she's going to get her second ring dinger from me, so not only can she give me some honest comparison on how Dr. Johnson and I compare to each other, but then she'll get to understand that this is a reproducible technique, just sometimes takes a little bit of work and a little bit of effort to get to that full point and get to that full decompression. So Dr. V, let's get you over here on the ring dinger table first this morning. Have you go butt right here, head up this way. So how would you compare this seminar to any of the seminars that you've been to in the past? Is it like anything that you've been to, or is it more hands-on and clinical than the things you've been to in the
It's
past?
definitely more hands-on and clinical.
There's no PowerPoints or lobbies that you're sitting in here to watch a slideshow, huh?
Nope. This is hands-on.
Come on now. Wake our table up here this morning. Right,
So I'm pretty ticklish.
yeah, sorry about that, Dr. V. So I'm gonna have you slide down probably about 3 inches because I need to get that iliac crest below the silver line here.
It's okay.
Probably about another 1/2 inch more. There we go, just like that. Oh, again, I'm gonna try and not elicit that tickle reflex. There we go. All right, we're about to squeeze
I
on
knew
you.
this part.
No, I'm gonna get this shit out there too. So even tell your patients that this is gonna be the worst part is those pins right there. But we'll get them out of there quick.
I'm not gonna move.
So if you want another check for that too, you can tell your patients, you can either do the arms up, or you can just have your patients put their hands at the top of those cushions there and try to push yourself through there. And it doesn't look like you're getting away on me. All right, Dr. V, so if you take that same nice deep breath in through the nose. Good, blow it all the way out for me. Ooh, that left big toe, all right. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
Just like that. I know you felt that
Yes.
all the way down.
Did you hear it?
Yes, ma'am. That's why I didn't need to ask if you felt that one all the way down. I could feel it myself.
I heard that.
Crack
I
addicts are,
felt it.
and the crack addicts are definitely gonna love you.
In more ways than one soon.
Not only for a crunchy spine, but for providing some great adjustments.
So you should have your table within the next 30 days, right?
Yes.
And be up and running?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Perfect.
Okay, that's even better.
The most important part of these tables is just making sure you're getting them bolted to the floor because of
Yep.
how much force we're actually delivering to some of our bigger patients. You just don't want that table sliding on you, especially if you've got a material on the ground that isn't as
Or
frictionless.
flopping up in the input
Yep.
piece.
Good for Dr. V.
That's what happened first time I adjusted Renee up at Hill Labs. Pulled the table about 3 feet off the floor.
Yeah, I remember one of the prototypes that we originally
Oh my
had in here
gosh.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you adjusting Renee or Gregory.
Yeah,
somebody
almost-
on it the
table
first time
almost
and
collapsed.
Fractured your toe.
Again.
Yeah, again. Exactly even to start today, and they stay even. That shouldn't tighten up anywhere, Dr. V, but you tell me.
Well,
Good. So we're still going to adjust that low back and sacrum. Because there's no study on the face of the earth that says taking these joints through their normal ranges of motion is harmful for that joint by any means. More pressure here. Sacrum, that's when I hook onto that tubercle right there. And still bring these joints to tension and thrust through that tension, just like with the ring dinger. And that medial aspect of PSIS there. 45 degrees down and away. All right, Dr. V, for L5 here, take a nice deep breath in through that nose.
Would you walk her through the contacts and line of drive on those, please?
Absolutely. So all of our contact points here are going to be the inferior aspect of that spinous process. And I use number 11, or what we call the butt crack of the hand there. So we're going to contact, and I've already dropped L5, so I'm up to L4 here for you and talk you through this one. L4. Make sure those drops are up. Again, contacting the inferior aspect of that spinous right there. One more piece up. Nice deep breath in for me. As I take that tissue pull, I then work on that line of drive with the angle of my arm here. Good. So L4 will be P to A, slightly S to I. L3 will be straight P to A. I'm gonna get one better with the timing of the table here. Good, just like that. L2, this is where we start to get a little bit of an I to S tissue pull. Good. The line of drive. And last L1. Good. Right.
And what spinal biomechanical condition are we affecting with that P to A Z-axis adjustment in the lumbar spine?
In terms of what range of motion?
No, what we're actually doing to the motor units and approximating
Stimulating those motor.
mechanoreceptors.
Yeah, stimulating the mechanoreceptors within each one of those joints. So every facet joint bilaterally on either side has a capsular ligament, as well as it doesn't have a capsular ligament, but the discs as well are a joint with the above and below.
Yeah, they're
vertebrae.
capsular ligaments and facets.
Mm-hmm. And so when we stimulate those joints, that sends a proprioceptive neurological information to the cerebellum and prefrontal cortex to the motor cortex.
Yep.
And that then has to process that information and sends neurological messages back to those joints, which then increases the proprioceptive information. And again, when we're bombarding the brain with all that proprioception, that really overrides and calms down those pain thresholds that a lot of people with chronic pain.
And in the lumbar spine as well, we're taking the retrolisthesis that we see on a lot of x-rays and putting that back into the proper
Reestablishing that
lordotic
normal
curve.
biomechanical
Yeah,
functions.
exactly.
Big breath in for me into that nose. Don't worry, I'm not gonna thrust into the tension there. There we go. Big breath. Good. We'll work our way up after the. Good. You're noisy all the way up today.
Yep.
Good. Have a big one here. I want you to let those shoulders really drop. Good. Right. Feel the head popping up next, okay? I'll talk you through those lines of drives on this one as well. So for C3 here, again, I'm using that knife edge or the hypothenar pad. I'm gonna come with a little bit of an S to I, and I wanna get underneath that spinous process right there. And then when I go for C3, it's gonna be straight P to A. C4, 5 is again P to A, with a little bit of an S to I for that lower lordotic curve. Then when we get to T2, that's when we're back straight P to A. Really working on getting that cervical spine back over our shoulders there. So have your face up for me next.
And a big part of what we're teaching all of our team ring dinger docs who come to these seminars is the most recent relevant scientific research on the newest definition of vertebral subluxation and the adjustments and its effect on the brain and neuroplasticity.
Yes, sir.
And that's a big part of this educational process is making sure they're current on the new research.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
As you are, as you and I are.
That's about the only lecture time that you get in here is.
Yeah,
sit
and
around
that's
the
not a
computer.
lot of lecture.
No,
It's
just
just
watching Heidi Horvick.
pointing them in the right direction, showing them the websites to go
Giving them
to.
some good resources.
That's
to
right.
Keep up with the education even after.
And that'll keep you busy for a year or two.
At least.
Yeah.
Have you scoot down just a touch so I get my hands. Let me see joints there. Okay, so these I use those DNR pads. Get right on top of that acromion. Lateral piece thrusts. Sternoclavicular. Into your ribs. These you gotta make sure we go straight lateral. Mm-hmm. That's why I've got to really make sure we get that lateral thrust. If you apply almost any A to P here, it's not going to be comfortable
No.
for the patient. Last one here. Good. All right, relax those hands on that tummy for me. Now we're going to decompress you from the lower end. All your patients are going to be asking why you're so much taller after you came back from Houston, huh?
I know, I need that extra height.
Just tell them everything's bigger in Texas, huh? Even after you visit for a few days.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You sit up and face Dr. J. So I'm gonna work on those shoulders on either side. that right little humeral joint. And contacting that bicipital tendon, making sure we get it back into the groove. And stabilizing on top of that scapula. I do one little extra rotation, and as I bring it into adduction here, just like that. Thrust is away, kind of towards the AC joint there in a sense. Stabilize scapula. One more little mini circle as I come into adduction. Just like that. You're just falling into place today for me. Elbows, again, I like to do a broad contact for only here. Some docs that I've learned from like to do more of a narrow contact there. I just don't think it's as comfortable for patients to go through that. Radius, I always use the thumb contact, go through a lot of pronation.
This is the one where I was telling her to pull that traction like you do on
So
me.
you feel the traction that I get there before I go through the thrust, just like that. Don't worry, I'll catch you between bugs. There we go. So again, I'll put my thumb on there and I palpate ranges of motion first, seeing where I have any restriction, like right there. Bring a little bit of traction. Yeah, light you up a bit.
Yeah.
I'll get it done quick. As I'm talking through there and squeezing, usually doesn't take me that long. Let's shoot ya. This is always the cherry on top right here. This is gonna help relax those paraspinal muscles after all the adjustments we just went through, as well as getting you in that mirror image position and stimulating all the mechanoreceptors around C1.
In a mirror image posture to affect neuroplasticity in the brain, specifically the cerebellum. And what's this affecting when you're doing this?
This affects the tone of the muscle by bouncing what's called the muscle spindle. It's housed within each one of these big old paraspinal muscles. So when I bring them to tension and then jump those muscles really, really fast, that triggers a neurological reflex to relax those muscles, because it's a nervous system hack for your brain to want to relax those, because you don't want to tear muscles, at least your nervous system doesn't. So if you're going through anything like with a tight hamstring and you're running really, really fast and you're getting to the point where you're about to tear some actual muscle fibers, that's when that muscle spindle elicits a neurological reflex to relax that muscle and then contract the antagonist muscle to protect those fibers. So again, we're not going to be tearing any muscle fibers in your paraspinals here, but it's really a hack to bring those muscles into a really tense position and then you bounce them really, really fast with the arthrostim gun to help relax them.
And that affects the Golgi tendon organ within the muscle spindles.
Sure.
And that's where you get the brain afferent information.
And then this is that mirror image homework that we went over yesterday. So this is where I like to describe those three parts. Again, we want to break these into all three parts and not combine them, because we want to go through the full range of motion with each section of this. Do it just like that. I always tell patients too, this is going to be the only time that you hold this position right here in the office. Anytime you do this outside the office, it's going to be a repetitive motion to start retraining your brain and body that it's okay to be in this neutral and extended position and to stop adapting to that forward flex position that brings a lot of our patients in, and your patients. So, Dr. B, this is your second ring dinger today and your second time going through the Johnson BioPhysics adjustments. How would you compare yesterday's treatments to today's treatments, and how easy the movements were compared to both?
I had more movement today because my body was more relaxed. Yesterday, I was a little startled because I've never had it done, and I was more ticklish, but...
Well, and the first time is also ripping loose fibrotic adhesions and scar tissue
Exactly.
in and around the joints, so it's
I-
a little more noticeable.
It went all the way down
Yeah.
on the first and second ring dinger
Yeah.
adjustment. Today, I felt like it was deeper.
And it usually is deeper the second adjustment.
Patients report that
We
as
see
well.
that all the time.
Like today, oh my goodness.
And also from a comfort level too, you understand that I'm not going to be ripping your head off with that adjustment, so you're able to relax a lot more through those
Right.
procedures as well.
And I mean, after you get it done, you don't have that fear factor anymore, and
And it's an
just
immediate
relax.
sense of well-being, huh?
I feel so good right
Yeah.
now.
You saw that this morning because you're also not only adjusting Dr. Johnson and I, you're seeing a lot of the patients that Dr. Johnson and I are working with, new patients, returning patients, everyone that we see on a day-to-day basis. So we had a visit this morning with Dr. Johnson on a new patient where she saw those immediate relief.
Yep.
And had so much relief that actually brought her
Emotional.
and a lot of us into the room into tears.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and that happens every single week in this practice, and that's really why I got into this, is to make such an impactful, life-changing visit for those patients that are seeking that last hope care.
Yeah.
So Dr. B, you know, as you well know, we have to obtain temporary Texas licenses from the Texas Board of Chiropractic Examiners for you to come in here and practice on Tristan and I.
Right.
So if you were telling the general public or the Texas Board of Chiropractic Examiners or other chiropractors who may be watching this about our seminar and what you've learned and how we conduct it, what would you say to them about Advanced Chiropractic Seminar?
I would say this is a very safe technique for patients only because the history and the exam is so thorough. I mean, not everyone can get accepted to do this, and you have to qualify, and you have to be healthy enough and also not have certain contraindications. So that's what the thorough exam in history is for. And people think it's just, you know, like coming in and we adjust you right away, but no, you really have to qualify for it. And in most cases, you know, people do, but we have to rule out any problems that, you know, could potentially cause problems later. So it's very safe.
Yeah.
It's funny how many times patients will come back in here and they've been to other chiropractors before and they'll immediately hop down face down on the paper and they're like, all right, let's get going.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I've got a few questions I want to
Yeah.
ask you here first. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. No chiropractors ever really even talk to me that much. So you just walk in the room, adjust me here, there, and the other, and then they'll go to the next room. So even a lot of patients that come in don't realize the thorough histories and the
Right.
exams and everything that we do before we even get started and get
Yes.
to touching your spine and palpate you.
Even the medical doctors that we treat.
Yep. They're all surprised by it.
Yeah. They really didn't have any idea about the level of intensity and comprehensiveness of what we do either.
Right.
So how would you describe the seminar to other chiropractors who may be just used to going and sitting behind a big table and looking up at a PowerPoint presentation all weekend for their 12 hours of continuing education?
I was one of those. I did that a couple weeks ago.
Everybody has been. Most chiropractors have been to those kinds of seminars because at state conventions, you know,
Right.
the other seminars are usually set behind a big old long table with other chiropractors and looking up at a PowerPoint presentation, but you're not really getting any hands-on clinical information.
And I think that has a lot to do with comfort zone.
Mhm.
You know, everyone just wants to stay at their comfort zone and not try to expand. I mean, and you know, life gets in the way too, so.
Well, that's also one of the advantages of this one-on-one training
Right.
too, I think,
Absolutely.
because it breaks down some of those fear factors and it's just us going
Right.
over all the clinical findings and science. It's really the science, art, and philosophy of Johnson BioPhysics
Right.
is what we've been covering all week.
It's a lot of.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. BioPhysics, neurology, you know, things that most patients don't even realize that we study. And it goes really in depth into all of that, which, you know, helps the patient heal much quicker.
Mhm.
And so I would advise other chiropractors to come out here because this is a really good training.
So this is Dr. B's second day of the 3-day seminar.
Right.
So we'll be doing some update videos with her later on as well. Watching her 5th and 6th ring dingers later on.
She's gonna be
tomorrow.
ring digging you and me again today.
Yep, she's got to work on. some
Hey, I
histories and
did
exams
good
we
the
did.
first time.
Yeah, you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did.
Absolutely. So
You did.
we'll be looking
Because-
forward to all those updates with you, Dr. B, and I'll let you finish with
Just put that big personality in there. You did good.
No, I don't have a big.
Yeah, you do.
personality.
Yeah.
But,
More so than you think.
I was just gonna say, a lot of people have concerns about, you know, females being too small to do the ring dinger, but it's on the technique.
Right.
And that's what I'm here to learn.
Mhm.
And, you know, it can go all the way down.
Yep. It
Even
will.
with a female doing the ring dinger.
Yep.
So.
Alright, so I'm your Houston chiropractor, Dr. Tristan Wendt, coming to you from Advanced Chiropractic Relief in Houston, Texas. And this is
Chicago land chiropractor, specifically in Melrose Park, Illinois, and Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois, coming soon. Chiropracticconnection.net is the website. Phone number 708-345-1299.
perfect. And we'll see you guys soon.